Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome. We are going to get started here in about 30 seconds. Just waiting for a few more people to finish signing in. Stay right where you're at. We'll be right back with you. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this Altium 365 onboarding presentation. My name is John Watson. I'm going to be your presenter today. It's a real pleasure to have you here. We have a lot of information we're going to go through in the next 45 minutes or so, and I can tell you, I can promise you right up front here that it's going to be like drinking from a fire hose. All right. And but we are recording this for you so that you'll be able to download this presentation, re-listen to it, and hopefully share it with your team and start using A365. That's our hope. So let's get right into this. Altium 365. What is it? Well, it's the first ever built-in cloud-based infrastructure platform that connects through your AD subscription. So there's nothing more to download or install or anything like that. It's already a part of your Altium platform. Just a matter of activating it and starting to use it. Now, A365 is going to become a central location for, number one, your design resources. This would be such things as your components, your templates, things like this. Anything that you would use in a design, you can actually save in A365, and it can become what I refer to as a central resource for everybody else in your team. Next is your PCB design projects, and also then ECAD, MCAD collaboration, and then also design outputs for fabrication and assembly. We're going to look at many of those things today. The main focus, though, of Altium 365 is to work from anywhere, connect with anyone. It is about collaboration, and it's about collaboration with your team. Now, with that said, it may come as a surprise, but Altium 365 does not require a license. Now, in the past, what has happened? You were issued a number of licenses, and once those licenses were used, no one else could get into the platform. Well, that resulted in the fact that you kind of had to be, what's the word, frugal, right? With your licenses, you had to kind of limit who could get into the platform and different things like that. Well, the fact that Altium 365 does not require licenses, now you can actually invite as many people as you want into the platform and into the design process. And basically, they can participate in the design and doing most of what I'm showing you today. All right, so just kind of keep this in mind. Now that there's no limitation on that, who would you be bringing in? You know, it's like now you could be bringing project managers in. You could, if they want to know what the status is of a project, they can go directly into the project, know what the open issues are, different things like this, maybe quality control, procurement, third parties, even people outside your company could be brought in. So kind of be looking at that, in the terms of William Shakespeare, it's a brave new world where there's no limitations, huh? So let's look at how to activate your workspace first off. There is only going to be one workspace per company. So if your company has already started a workspace and you try to do that, it won't allow you to do it, but it will send an email to your administrator of that workspace, letting them know that you're interested in getting into the workspace. All right. If you don't have a workspace, you can create one. All right. Now, there is only one workspace per company, and a common question comes up is, what happens if my AD license subscription lapses? Do I lose the data and everything in there? Of course you don't. All stays right there in A365, but it will become read-only. Okay, so keep that in mind. And probably the best practice is to make sure those licenses don't expire on you. So let's look at how to activate your workspace if you haven't done so already. And I actually like giving assignments on these webinars. I don't like just kind of talking for 45 minutes and saying, well, thanks for coming. I actually want to give some assignments. All right. So this is your first assignment. If you have not created your workspace, do so. This is how you do it. And if you go into Altium up at the top right, you'll see your name and avatar there. It says not connected. If you click on that, it will invite you in to activate your workspace and into the Activate Workspace page. That's a mouthful. So just some basic information that's needed here. Number one is, what are you going to be calling the workspace? We do suggest you use your company name here. It may be that in the future you're invited into other workspaces, things like that. You want to be able to easily identify your workspace. All right. So that name goes in there. You then have a choice to make of where you're going to be connecting, creating your workspace, what server. There are 4 locations right now: Europe, Asia, US East, and US West. Pick the one that's closest to you and your team. Right now, I'm in the US West area. You can put a description in here if you want. And if you're setting up your workspace for the first time, we do suggest you use the sample data. It will show you a great way of structuring the workspace and different things like that. Okay. So from there, it's just a matter of hitting activate. And when it's finished, it will take a couple minutes. Once it's done, it will tell you that your workspace is now successfully activated, and it will actually bring you into it. Here you go. This is Altium 365. Welcome to it. All right. Notice this is a web page. I'm tapped into the workspace on a web page. Now, what's nice about this is that you can actually don't require Altium at this point. I can actually do everything I'm about to show you. And one of the very first times I used a 365, actually, I was sitting in an airport on a tablet, and I was able to review designs and do everything that I'm about to show you. And it was really, really convenient. Okay, so this really kind of opens up a new venue for us to work and how we work, and not have to actually have Altium to look at designs. Okay, and now if I had to make edits or things like that, I would actually have to open this project in Altium. But so let's see what we have here. Number one, we have a great getting started page where you can register. We get videos, training here, register for upcoming webinars. Right below there, then we have the project area. Now in the project area, I'll come back to this and go a little bit deeper. And right below there, then we have the components. Now in the components, this is really nice because you actually can have a central library now that everybody works from. If you're working, maybe your team has multiple libraries that you've been using, different things like that. Well, you can stop using those today. You can go ahead, create your workspace, and then begin to migrate those libraries into a single location on your Altium 365, which is really nice. So right below there then is the MCAD Co-Designer. Now, what this is that it's a download that you plug in, and takes all of 10 minutes to set up here. And what it will do is actually connect up Altium into SolidWorks, PTC Creo, Autodesk Inventor, or Autodesk Fusion 360. And it's really convenient because then what you're able to do is push and pull the design back and forth and identify and be able to make changes on either side. All right. And it's really nice. I spent a long time, that's an understatement, creating 3D step files and attaching them to emails and emailing them to mechanical people. I wished I had this tool when I was, early in my career. It was saved me a huge amount of time. All right. So, and I can tell you, if you don't do anything else with Altium 365, do this. All right. It's huge. So here, right here, then is the Workspace Members. This is where you would add Workspace members and such. I'll come back to this here in a second. Then right below there is the admin area. I'm not going to talk too much about the admin. I do want to point out two things though to you. So under the general area, there is a place where you can change the workspace name or the server address or add a description or such. Now, the only thing you can't change here is the server location, okay? The other thing I want to point out to you is that there is also, wrong area, there's also then the data cleanup area here, where you can, if you started your workspace with sample data, you can come in here and delete that data and continue on using that workspace, okay? So right below there then is the trash bin, where anything you delete except for that purge that I just mentioned is stored, where you can either permanently delete it or restore it back, okay? So let's go back up here to our projects, and I'll tell you a common question that comes up is, well, if I only have one workspace, what can I do here? There's a great way of organizing these projects. Now up here I can say new, and I actually can create a folder. Now you can set this up any way you wish. Let's say you're doing a product line. So you can say product line 1, and you can say create. And this actually will then create a folder structure here where you can then move your projects into that folder structure. Now, what's nice about this is you can also set up permission levels for this folder for certain people and actions, different things like that, okay? So this is really, really nice. So let's go into an actual project here. Let's open up this FMU project, and let's show you what we have here. Really what we've got is a bureau on steroids. Is the best way I can describe it. Number one is you have a source documents up here. You've got, you can actually pull open each page of the schematic here. You can examine each one of those. You can zoom in, zoom out, different things like that. You have really a nice information button up here. So if you wanted to know the information of your board, different things like that, but also you have the controls. Now, this is the other great advantage of Altium 365 is that the controls are really easy. All right, this is it right here. So if you want to zoom in, move around, zoom out, zoom in, it's very, very simple. Okay. So right now I'm scrolling here. I can pan by grabbing the design or zooming in, zooming out. So even if I got this, I'm going to use a technical term here. If I got my design like really whacked here and I'm lost and I don't really know where I'm at, where's my design, I can actually hit the R button and it will reset my view. There you go. All right. So this is really great. I can maneuver around. I can also search for different things in my design. So let's say I'm looking for a C10 here. I can actually enter that. Or if I want, I can do it by nets. So this is that's that components or by nets. So if I come in and say, yeah, let's see what this net here is. There you go. And it actually zooms right into it. Gives you the details of it and everything else. All right. So this is great because now I can quickly find things in Altium in the design. So let's say I'm looking for a C10 here. There you go. It zooms right into it. Now, the really great part of A365 is the collaboration part, like I said. And what you're able to do is leave comments. So here I can actually say place a comment here. And let's say change the temp range, for example, on this guy. We need to increase it or do whatever we want. And what I can do here is actually assign this to a specific person. So if I said the @ sign here, that will actually pull open my user list. So here, let's say I want to assign that to myself. I'm the only one on the list right now. I can actually assign that as a task on my list. And I would then, if I do this, I go ahead and get an email stating I've been commented in a design, gives me a snapshot of the design and the comment and everything. So this is really nice, very collaborative, very easy to use back and forth. All right. So commenting is the huge area of A365. All right. The next document we have over here then is the PCB. Now, this is nice because I can actually come in, I look at the PCB, I can select the layers I want to look at. Let's say I want to look at this ground. I can come in here, pull open the different layer stacks, different layers. Let's say I just want that ground, or I can combine them or different things like this. So let's say I just want this top layer. I can see the net names here, different things like that. All right. What I'm also able to do here is actually do measurements. So here, if I wanted to know, let's say the distance between these vias, I simply go ahead, click that, tells me, okay, 2.75. And what I can then do is actually leave a comment on my 2D view. So here I can say, well, let's separate these. All right. So I can actually go, actually leave that comment, separate the vias, so we can say post that. That becomes a part of the history of the design. Now, this is great because now think about all the conversations that go on in a design, during a design, from start to finish, in the boardroom, right? Or different areas, over lunch, whatever, right? How do you capture that information right now? All those comments, issues, things like that. It's usually done, I mean, different ways, of course, but you have, like, let's say, Excel spreadsheets, or Post-it notes on the whiteboard that you move over, or different things like this. Email, Slack, smoke signals from cubicle to cubicle, however you guys communicate, right? This now, when you can actually place a comment in the design with the open issue, it's really nice because now it becomes a part of the history of the project as it develops, which is really, really nice. Okay, so you can easily put comments, assign those to individuals, assign them to different groups or different things like that, or individuals, I should say. Okay, so now here we also have the 3D view of the board. You can actually rotate that. Now, like if I get this all weirded out like this, I can actually just go ahead, hit my R button, and there we go. All right. So here I can actually look at the layout of the design, different things like that. I can also leave comments in here. So let's say I want to go ahead and leave a comment on a part. I can just go ahead and click that and drop it in there. And that becomes then a part of the 3D view. Now, I also then have the BOM, which is really nice because it will tell me all my details on my components, whether they're recommended or not recommended for new designs, all the details of pricing, different things like that. This is going to be very similar, by the way, with Active BOM. So this is actually a combination now of our supply chain area over here and our BOM. So down here then is a release area. I'm going to show you how that works here in this webinar. And right below there then is the history. Now, this is nice because it takes advantage of the built-in Git repository. All right. You can actually save and commit your project to a version control system. And every time I do, it gives me a new placeholder here, and then does it compare to the last time that I did that commit and push. All right. So it will show me the differences between these two stages of the design. All right. So that is Altium 365 there. We just walked through the entire platform. That's just about it. It's very easy to pick up, very easy to learn. So let's go ahead and go down to our workspace members. One of the very first things we want to do is add a workspace member. So here I want to go ahead and invite someone. All I do is just drop their email in here and say invite. Now, what happens here is, first off, he's added to my list as a list of users. And he then gets an email inviting him into the workspace. All right. Now, I could make him an administrator or not. I'm not going to do that here. Now, when he goes into the workspace, he would ask to register. He will set up a Altium Live account, and he will then have his own login and password and everything. So very simple adding team members to the workspace. The next thing I want to show you is how to get your first project up into A365. So here we have a simple one-page schematic. The DVI level shifter is not in version control or in my workspace. And all I need to do here is just right-click and say make project available online. That's it. I put in here a project name. I can drop a description. By default, it's going to go in version control, and I can say okay. It's now going to be put into my Git repository and then uploaded into A365. All right. So it takes a couple seconds here. There you go. I now have my green check marks right here, which means I'm all synced up. with my head copy, which is now in my A365. That's my head copy of my version control. And keep in mind, I have a local copy of this now on my system. And it's all driven and controlled by the Git repository version control system. All right. So this is really nice. I got my first project up there. I got my first team members invited in. So it's very easy to do those things. So feel free, after you've created your workspace, invite some team members up there, get your first project, or use one of the sample projects, throw some comments around. It's really, really simple to use. So what I want to do here is I actually want to go ahead and close this project. I want to walk through an entire project with you from start to finish and show you how you can integrate A365 and how you can start using it. So if I come up here to File, New, and say Project, it actually opens up my A365 resources. All right, so here I can actually come in, say default, use that project template. I'm going to call this the MCU PCB project, for example, and throw out there my date. My goodness, it's already October. It's now the holiday, or getting into the Halloween season. Pumpkin spice is all around. I actually went in today and got my pumpkin spice oil change, which was fantastic. So here's a description if you want to add that in there. So I can actually go ahead and create my project here, and it's going to create the project based on the project template, put it into the Git repository, and upload it in my A365. So very simple. There you go. I've now got a brand new project. I can rename these if I need to, different things like that. We'll do that here. But now let's say I'm working now with a contractor. I am working with a contractor on this project. His name's Fred. And I don't want him to have full access to my workspace or my other projects or different things like that. What I can do is actually share a project. So here I have a couple options. I could do a snapshot, generate a link, share that link with them. Now that is only good for 48 hours, and commenting is not available. So some limitations there. So here we then have the share area. So all you need to do here is just go ahead, drop in the person you want to share this project with. Now, I have another level of security here. I could make it where I could give him just viewing rights, or he can edit it. All right. So here I want to allow him to edit. I will give him a little welcome here. Welcome to A365. This is the new project. So there we go. And I can go ahead and share this. Now, this is really nice because what happens is he will be invited into the workspace, just like Ben was earlier. All right. And I actually have a view into this person's email here and show you. And here's the invite into the project, and welcome to A365 new project. And he can actually open this now in Altium 365. Now, once again, first time he would ask to register, set up a username, password, all those different details, and set those things up. And there you go. He actually has a view into the project. And if I come back here, this is all he can see. He doesn't have all the other panels or anything like that I see as on my side. All he's got here is this single project that's been shared with him. That's all he can see, just that project. So I've got full control over who sees what and when and all these different details. Okay. So that's how you share a project. So now I've got Fred online, and I can actually go in and start working on my schematic here. And I want to open my A365 library by saying panels and components. So here we go. It's actually opened up on my other screen here. And this gives me my components I've got in my A365. Okay. So here I can actually come in, look at the different details. If I say, okay, I'm looking at capacitors, for example, I can come in, filter out based on parameter information here of exactly what I'm looking for, and quickly find the component. So I know, for example, we need a PIC for this design. So if I did a entire search on PIC, I can actually come in and say PIC here, and there we go. We have a 1503 there. That works great. So a couple ways of doing this. Number one is I could come in and drag and drop. So here I could just go ahead and say, yeah, that's the guy I want. I can just go ahead and drop that now component into my library or into my schematic, or I can say right click and say place. Now, selected footprint file not found. Whoa, okay. It seems to be a disconnect between my footprint there somehow. Interesting. I've never seen that before. Yeah, it looks like I have a disconnect on all my footprints. My goodness. Wow. Yeah. There's a footprint. So let me drop that in there. Okay. I got to have some components in here somewhere, right? There we go. So what you can do is actually drag and drop. You can if you need one of these, you just go ahead and place that and place it into your schematic. And now if I need more than one of a component, I can actually say place. Now what happens here is it will just keep placing components here until I hit the escape key. So it's a really convenient way if you need more than one on the schematic sheet of dropping components. All right. So very, very simple to do that. And, you know, for example, if we go into like this guy here, can easily just drag and drop things. Okay. So very good. And I can actually keep working. Now, this is my first resource I've got is the component library in A365. Now, if I can't find the component I'm looking for, I immediately go over to panels and open up my manufacturing part search. Now, this ties me into my A365 library, which is really nice because this has about, I think, just shy of 900,000 components right now available, and a lot of great components in here. Now, I hear a lot of comments regarding, you know, another library, we'll say, whether it be manufacturing part search or a third party or different things like that. Like where do these components come from, and can they be trusted and everything else? And my answer to that is no, they can't be trusted. Don't trust not one single one of these components. Don't trust it. The reason I say that is because you don't ever bring anything into your design that has not been verified. Even if you're the one creating the component, don't trust it. It's where a component has to be QC'd. Once it's brought in, it's verified, make sure it's correct, everything is right, and then it's brought in and used in a design. Now, until then, it's the whole saying of trust but verify. Okay, so keep in mind that whenever you bring anything in from anywhere, make sure that it's quarantined and kind of held there until it's verified and make sure it's correct. Always do that. And when you make assumptions in a design, that's where you get into trouble. That's where you actually have problems that come in, and that's where you have a lot of spent money on fabrications that never go anywhere, because what happens is you have wrong footprints or different things like that. Okay. So I'm going to step down from my soapbox now on that one. Okay. So I know, for example, we need a Wi-Fi for this project, so I can actually do a general search of Wi-Fi and search through the entire manufacturing part search library. I can open my filter button and say I want to drill in, find a little bit more by detail here. There we go. Now I could, if it has the model right here, I could drag and drop that. Okay, I could just drop that into my design like this. Now, keep in mind, this is a read-only library. I can't change this. I can't do anything. So a better option for you is to actually acquire it. So I'm going to right-click and say acquire, and it's going to ask me where do I want to put this first off in my library. I'm going to go with wireless and say okay. And with that, then it opens up and says, well, what are you going to bring in? Well, I want to bring in all my parameter information, symbol, footprint, so on. Okay. So there we go. And I can actually go ahead and open up I'm still having problems looks like I'm having problems with my library. Interesting. So won't even let me acquire components. Come on. No. Wow. Interesting. I apologize for this one. Okay. It's up to that point. All right, that one came in. I'm not sure exactly what the problem is. So here we have the acquiring it. It's actually in a holding pattern right now, we'll call it. And what we then do is actually go ahead and hit save to server, and this will move this component into my library. All right. So the ESP32. So let's go ahead and hit that guy. And this actually gets moved from the manufacturing parts search library into my library. Okay. So give this a second here. I actually want to see this happen. There we go. It's kicking in. It's now being transferred from the manufacturing part search. Failed. Wow. HRID. Whoa. Okay. I am crashing here. Interesting. See if I can release it again. Oh. Well, I apologize about this. I know apologies don't show you what we need to see here. And I better go ahead and save my project to the server here, update that at least. Now, just kind of show you the commenting area. If I show Fred's view, if I go ahead back here and open up the project here, Fred can actually see the progress of the project. And he can see that I've now just pushed this over and it's generating a new visualization here. It takes a couple seconds for that to happen. There you go. So he can actually see my work now. He can see the progress, and he can then go ahead and place comments directly in the design. So let's say he comes in and says, you know, I don't like this. Let's replace this with a new part, for example, or whatever the comment would be. For example, say, you know, let's replace this with an 1824, okay, part here. All right, so I can easily just drop that in. He can assign that task to me if he wanted to by using the @ sign, and say he can place comments directly in A365, which is really nice because he can be sitting anywhere in the world, right? Sitting on a tablet on a beach, looking at this design and you know, doing a review of it. All right, so he can also place comments just about anywhere you want, really. So if you say, you know, let's put out a note to everybody, say, you know, let's make sure we use the same Molex connector, for example, that we did on the previous design, right? So he can start dropping comments in here. So what happens here is that I see those pop up in my Altium right here. And I say, oh, okay, so Fred's online and he wants to go ahead and replace this part with an 1824. Okay. So what I can do is actually go into my manufacturing part search, or I can create that component directly from here by creating a new component. It's just going to start ask me where I'm going to put it, and then I just put in the part number and everything. Then this other request here is nice, because what I can do is when this is finished, I can just reply back to Fred. That's now done. The conversation is continuing there. And this situation here is that I know I don't have this component in my library, and so I actually want to show you how to migrate an entire library, and this is probably how you're going to load up your library at the very beginning, all right, to be honest. If I come into import, library importer, file library importer, I can actually go ahead and open up this library importer and say library and go in, and it's going to ask me right here, it's integrated. Now this works with integrated, schematic lib, PCB lib, DB libs, SVN DB libs, just about any form of library you've got. Okay, so here we go. We can go ahead and open this. And what happens here is I can actually come in and it's going to analyze my components for where they're going to go. So it can identify the resistors and the capacitors based on the default designator here, and then know exactly where they're heading. All right, so here we go. Now we got some really great parameter mapping over here. We also have part choice mapping, and then also import checks that we got over here. And these are great because now you can clean up the library before you do the migration. Okay, so if I wanted to, I can go ahead and hit validate. It will flag the components that have issues. So here I've got an issue, and down here will give me the details here. It tells me that basically I've got the same footprint in my library already. So it's actually can identify same footprints. Then it says that the component type is undefined. So if I look at component type here, I can actually see, okay, yeah, none. This is a connector. I can manually select that. And then this up here is another warning about the same model having the same geometry. Okay, so this here I can actually hit validate. It's going to give me those couple warnings there. And now, if you've been using multiple libraries for any period of time, you probably have duplicate components, and that's one of the checks that is done here. Is components duplicated by parameter or by part choice? So if that's the case, it will tell you that you've already got this. And you can exclude that from the import. So here it would go into a secondary list and ignored. So here I'm going to go ahead and hit import, and it's giving me, it will warn me about those two warnings that on the models. But here it will bring in all the details of my component, all the different pieces of my component, we'll say, and then data sheets, information, all that. So here you see that it's imported 8 components, 11 models, and we can actually go ahead and close this now. We're done with the importer. We actually now have those components in our library. If we bring our library back in, we can actually see, go over to our component library, which is closed, it looks like. But in my component library here, I can actually, if I wanted to, I could drill in, but let's just do a search here on Molex connectors. Look at all my Molex connectors here. And here you see that the Molex connectors that were just brought in, the 10.4, it's time-stamped. I can actually go ahead now and drop those into my design, and I'm continuing to work, okay? So here I can actually go ahead and reply back to Fred. That's now been done. Now, Fred could actually delete this comment. I don't suggest deleting comments because this is a part of the history of the design, and he can resolve it though. So any of the kind of threads, we'll call them, that occur in your design, you can actually resolve them. I wouldn't recommend deleting. There is a great way of doing export your comments in the Altium here under reports. You can export your comments. Which will probably be a great way of kind of doing, let's say, a design review, or at that point where you're reviewing, and just kind of export your comments, see all the comments have been done, and see what the status is of them, who's been involved, things like that. So that's a great tool up here. All right, so so let's say I go ahead and I push this into the PCB here. I know I'm not wired up or annotate or anything, but you guys are good with that stuff. So here we can just go ahead and push this in. Here's my PCB. I'm now in my 3D. I can actually do my 3D view here of my board. There you go. See all the different details. Now, keep in mind, I can also do commenting in the 2D and the 3D view. Okay, so keep that in mind. So let's say I'm all done with my project. I've wired this up. I've done my board stack, my board shape, all these different things, routed, placement, routing, verified the design. I'm all ready to go. It's all been checked out. And I'm now ready to go ahead and create my fab package. So the way I do that is I actually can come in and use the project releaser, and which is really convenient because this actually uses my output job files, and it uses 2 of them. So if you right now have 1 output job file, make sure to separate that out into 2 of them, 1 for fab, 1 for assembly. And this is where you then connect up your output job file to your output. So here we go. We can set up, there's some other settings in there, by the way. So I kind of rushed through that, but just so you're aware of it. So here we're going to go ahead and create the 3 packages: source data, the fab data, and the assembly data. And we're going to go ahead and hit prepare. All right. So with this, actually we'll first off save it off in my A365, do that last commit and push into my repository. So here's my release A1, for example, and say commit and push. There we go. And it's now going to be take that final snapshot. And now the output job files will be brought in and run. Look at them like engines that will run this process. So here we have our fabrication side, which is being run. These are the outputs that we're doing. And then we're going into the assembly. So this is a little bit of an automated process of creating your outputs. Now, this is really convenient. And also there are what's called validation reports here, which are run first. And if there's a problem on your design, it will stop this whole thing. Okay, so here I can actually see I got green check marks. These are files that were created, all these different things. From here, I just go ahead and hit release. So release A1, for example, I just go ahead and hit OK. And here we go. It's now going to be uploaded into my A365. All right. Give this a second. There we go. We got our links. We've got the data reports, different things like that. And we're now done. We've actually released our board. So let's look at what's happened here. If I go over to my workspace, let's go into this area, into my side here. So here we go if we go into the workspace, we can actually see this project right here. We can open this up. We can see the collaboration between the comments of Fred and everybody and everything. If they've not been resolved, they can just be resolved. We can do the output of our report, different things like that. We also then have the view into the PCB side here, which is great. I don't see any comments there. We also then the 3D view, just like we have in Altium. We then have the BOM, which is nice because then we can actually see the details. It looks like we have some issues with continuing issues with our library here. So here we actually can look at then the history of the design, and look what's happened here. Every time I made a save and commit and push this into the repository, it gave me a new placeholder. So you can see here 21 minutes ago, we created this project and each step along the way. And then this is the release that I just did. So this is really nice because what you're able to do is actually keep all the revisions and releases of your project in a single file, which is great because then you can actually look back, search through any comments, different things like that. Any issues that you might have had on a previous version from, let's say, a year ago or something like that, easily can handle that. So up here then is the release area. Notice here, I've got actually now a release here, and I can send this to my manufacturer directly from A365. So let's say I just want to go ahead and drop his email in here and say, configure the files I want to send to him and say send. Okay. So there we go. Those are going to be wrapped up and sent to him, and he can actually go into these files. So just give it a second here. So there you go. I have a timestamp of who I sent these files to, when, all the different details. I can actually open the files I sent and see the details here of the files themselves. This is really good information for them to quote the board, by the way, board shape, topology, trace width, vias, all that. So here I actually then have a view into my fab site. So here, let's say I just want to look at, I can look at my top layer. They can also leave comments, by the way, in the design itself. So let's say they come in, they say place comment. Let's say on this component, say wrong pin spacing, all right, or wrong footprint, something like that. Not something you want to hear, but I would get notified of the comment being done in the Gerbers. All right, so someone commented on my release and there's an issue. So I don't have to worry about missed phone calls or anything like that. It's all done, it's still done in the side of the design. So here's then is the assembly area and the BOM area. Okay, so here I can actually then see the files that were created, different things like that. Okay, so I want to show you where you can get more information with Altium. Now, this is it's a really easy tool to pick up and learn, and you have 3 assignments. All right. Number 1 is create your workspace. If you haven't done so, get your first team members invited in, and get your first project up there, and start commenting. I mean, just play around with this platform and try it out. Okay. So here you can actually see some more information. Here's the great forum area where power users are, different things like that. There's also then documentation right here. So we can actually take the deep dive into A365 and free training available here. Articles, videos, complimentary training, locations to register for upcoming webinars, things like that. There's also then the live chat area. So this is nice if you want to chat with someone. I'm not saying just get on there and chat, but of course. But here you have support tickets that you can put in, knowledge base, different things like that. You also then have the documentation forms again. And then you have the Altium Academy, which is really nice. It's a free site that you can go to on YouTube channel, I think they call it. And you can actually go on there, register, and have access to hundreds and hundreds of videos up there, not just on A365, but on other areas of Altium and different things like that. Some really great area to check out. Okay, so I'm going to leave the rest of the time, excuse me, for questions. And thank you, Christine, for answering those questions that came in. Appreciate that. And if anyone has a question, go ahead and drop that in the Q&A box. I'll give it a few seconds in case someone is typing. But this is a really great platform, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. And I apologize for the problems I had. It looks like it looks like something has gone awry in my install. So any questions? Make sure I don't cut anybody off here. Question. Here we go. Thank you. Can you demonstrate the folder structure like in CAME FMU project? When you're saying folder structure, you mean the files themselves? If I opened up the project, I can actually see to bring that project in. You have a folder structure here that will show the schematic, the PCB. There's an active BOM document, and it looks like there's one drawing here. All right, so there's the folder structure. Is that the folder structure you're speaking of? There is no add folder option inside of the project, inside of Altium. There is, but it's better to set up that folder structure in A365. Okay, so you can go through the Explorer area and set up folders. If I look at my Explorer, I can actually see what I've set up there under my project area here. So here you see that product 1, and you see all my projects here. So I can set up a subfolder here on this level. All right. This is another way into it. I have an old schematic file. How can I open this with Altium? You want to go and you want to use the importer, depending on what program, what software you're using before. We actually have a fantastic importer here. If I go into File and one moment. You actually have a importer that you import wizard, they call it, that you can import other files. Okay. It looks like I am in drastic need of a reinstall here. In components, how do I see which component has issues? I have 74 components with issues and don't know how to see the problems. Very good question, John. Thank you. If you go into the workspace, I can actually open up my component area. And if I go into my components here, I actually have a library health monitor here, which is really nice because I can actually then see the details of issues. So here it will tell me right now, you can see that I've got a total of 690 components. I've got healthy of 573. 117 have issues. Okay, so here I can actually see what those issues are. Let's say I come in here, no part choice defined. So I can actually click there and see all the problems and the issues that I've got on my library. So that's all done through the library health. On the Altium side, you actually have that also available to you. That's done through the Explorer again. You actually have the library health monitor, library health here also in the Explorer panel. So, any other questions? Thank you for those questions. Very good, and appreciate your input. So thank you very much. I'm glad you attended. And if you do have any questions, please reach out to us. We're glad to help you and help you in the, with any issues and problems. Okay. So thank you very much. I hope to see you at the next webinar. Goodbye, everyone. Yes, we will send you a video of this presentation, or I think I'm going to be sending you another one. The one that we actually worked. So yes, we will be sending a recording out of the webinar. Thank you very much.